I do hereby swear to be faithful to the Republic of South Africa.
And I solemnly and sincerely promise that we will always promote all that will advance the Republic and oppose all that may harm.
Be a true and faithful counsellor, discharge my duties with all my strength and talents to the best of my knowledge,
and true to the dictates of my conscience, do justice to all,
and devote myself to the well-being of the Republic and all of its people.
So help me God.
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 It has almost become a cliché to say the May 29th general election will be the most hotly contested in the country's democratic history. But all clichés contain at least a kernel of truth, and this year's poll is expected to be a much closer contest than the previous 6. 3 of the country's largest provinces, Gauteng, KwaZulu Natal and the Western Cape, are key battlegrounds where big political parties like the ANC, DA and EFF are pulling out all the stops and making big promises in a bid to secure votes. But have they done enough? In this episode, Cliff Shiko and Princess Maoho examine the change in South Africa's political landscape over the past 30 years. With the help of political analysts, they delve into provincial battlegrounds and consider what it all could mean for the governing ANC.
Is the ANC in danger of losing its grip on power? And why has KwaZulu Natal emerged as a battleground ahead of the May elections? Political experts are all pointing to KZN as one of the provinces most likely to fall into the hands of the current opposition, not only due to the working agreement between the IFP and the DA, but also due to the emergence of the MK party headed by former President Jacob Zuma. The new alignments have left the ruling party with a fight in its hands to retain the province against its main rival, the IFP, which has seen an increased representation since the last election in 2019. The EFF also increased its support in KZN, and then of course the great unknown, the new political kid on the block, Umkhonto Wesizwe. The party is enjoying widespread support thanks to one of the province's most popular politicians, former President Jacob Zuma. Like all the country's provinces, KZN has its own service delivery challenges from water, sanitation, electricity, ailing infrastructure, corruption, unemployment, and access to housing. The province also bore the brunt of the 2021 July unrest and has in recent years been battered by the devastating floods which have caused extensive damage to infrastructure. We spoke to political analyst Zakhele Ndlovu from the University of KwaZulu Natal on the ANC's prospects of winning KZN with an outright majority.
By the look of things right now, it does appear that the ANC is going to lose its outright majority. However, I do think that after the election, we could see the ANC and the new MK party joining forces to form a coalition and retain control of KZN. But what we are certain of at this point is that in KZN, there won't be a party that wins the outright majority, but could see either the ANC-MK party coalition or ANC, DA and other smaller parties, but definitely no outright majority for the ANC in KZN.
And what could be the underlying reasons why the ANC may lose its support in KZN?
So there's a new party called MK, and it's going to take a lot of support, or most of its support is going to come from the ANC. So those people who would have voted ANC will be voting for MK.
Do you think the MK party will make great strides in this election?
I don't see the MK party winning a lot of support outside of KZN. I think probably the other province where it's going to get some support is Gauteng and maybe to a lesser extent in Mpumalanga province. And the reason why I mentioned these two provinces, there is a significant presence of Zulu speakers in those provinces. Remember that MK is a party that is associated with former President Jacob Zuma, and he gets a lot of sympathy from Zulu speakers.
What about the Inkatha Freedom Party, the IFP? Can it win the elections in KZN and activate its multi-party coalition?
Maybe if the MK party never came into existence, we could say that there was that possibility. But because of MK again, the IFP is going to be another loser to the MK party, but more so the ANC. As I said, there's this Zulu ethnic card that is being played. And with Mangosuthu no longer around, so you have Zuma who is now playing the ethnic card. That is going to hurt the IFP as well, but not as much as it is going to hurt the ANC.
In Gauteng, the ANC has also been pulling out all the stops to woo voters. By all accounts, the ANC's hold on power in the economic hub is hanging by a thread. During the 2019 elections, its support dipped to 50% from 53% in 2014. For many, Gauteng is still regarded as the economic powerhouse and destination for job opportunities. However, in recent years, the province has seen serious decay in infrastructure, a lack of basic services, a major water crisis, rising unemployment and crime. Political analyst at Wits University, William Gumede, explains why Gauteng matters to the ANC.
If you remember the last local government elections, 2021, under correction, Action SA, then a new party, dominated the Soweto region. Now, if Action SA can replicate that type of performance to a provincial level, it is going to be very decisive, pulling the ANC below 50%.
Will the DA be able to shift gears?
Yes, I think there's an absolute, now, remember the multi-party charter is a group now of 11 parties, and potentially one or two parties may join at a date before the 29 May elections. And I was independent chair of the negotiations put it together. Now it looks very likely that a multi-party charter, the DA, Action SA, IFP combination would be governing Gauteng, and that they would be able to bring the ANC to below 50%, not only even below 50%, but potentially at a lower 40% or under 40% in Gauteng.
What about the EFF?
If you look at the polls now, the EFF seems to be stuck in that sort of between 9 to 12, 14%. The launch of Jacob Zuma is also eating into their constituencies, is damping their growth because Jacob Zuma is eating into their constituencies. And of course, Jacob Zuma is also eating into the A constituencies. And that really is a problem for the EFF now. Their inability to move, because they are pitched as a populist party, there's only so much take-up for a populist party in South Africa. I would say nationally for populism, there's potentially a 25% for populism in South Africa.
The Western Cape is the only province not governed by the ANC. In 2019, the DA won 55% of the vote, down from the massive 59% it garnered in 2014. While the DA uses the Western Cape as an example of what it could do if given the keys to the union buildings, the province is not without its own issues. Like any other province in South Africa, the Western Cape also has its fair share of challenges, including gang violence and underdeveloped townships. There are calls from some quarters for the Western Cape to be granted independence, and the provincial government recently tabled legislation that would give it more autonomous power. Political analyst from the University of Johannesburg, Dr. Oscar van Heerden, shares his insight as to whether the DA will remain in power or if the party could be losing support thanks to the smaller parties.
Look, I think that given the massive support that they do have in the Western Cape over the years, their power have been declining. We saw post the 2016 local government elections that they lost a number of municipalities and wards and had to then engage in coalition politics, which is an indication that their power base, their support base is declining. This is going to be a hotly contested elections for the first time in a long time, and I think the DA is worried about it.
Do you think the DA should be worried by parties like Patriotic Alliance and Action SA?
I think they are worried about specifically the Patriotic Alliance because a number of people don't know, and Gauteng McKenzie actually acknowledged this on social media himself, that he was offered 200 million rand not to contest in the Western Cape, which he declined.
What are some of the pressing issues affecting an ordinary Western Cape voter?
Well, the ordinary voter in the Western Cape, like most South Africans, black South Africans in particular, will be worried about jobs, unemployment. They'll be worried about continuous living in poverty and, of course, inequality. The ordinary voter is wanting some kind of improvement in their ordinary life. From what the polls show us in terms of how the voting has happened since the last vote in 2016, Western Cape voters are becoming more conscious about where they put their X.
South Africa's road to freedom has been a long one, and with the fall of the apartheid regime in 1994 and the birth of a new democracy, there was a renewed sense of hope for a better future. With a ruling ANC in power over the past 30 years, strides have been made, but has it been enough? Siyabonga Mota and Andy Swangwenya from KwaZulu Natal believe more change is needed, that government could do more to effectively address the needs of the people.
It's difficult at the moment rather to say which political party, because it's pretty much the same tune. It's just a reshuffling of some of the things that were promised in the previous elections. I'm still listening to political leaders and independent candidates on what they're promising. Surely by May 29, I should have a party to vote for, or an independent candidate. We'll see. And I think a little bit of a disadvantage in South Africa is that all these materials and information comes in English, and people from my village who might not be at a position to understand the language fully, they are at a disadvantage point because they can't interpret some of what the political parties are promising.
Every election manifesto I've listened to, political parties are talking about change, and I believe that my area, specifically eMatateni, deserves change, deserves better things. We still have gravel roads. We have a very high unemployment rate, especially among youth. We are actually one of the most poverty-stricken areas around this side of KZN, and we also suffer from load shedding. Machuba Power Station sometimes fails. I'd like to see load shedding coming to an end in our province. I'd love to see crime being dealt with. I'd love to see things getting better for us. We have a Technikon college which is going down the drain. I'd love government to come and assist us. We have a lot of young people who are very talented, not just with technical skills, but I think if they can diversify also, have maybe beauty, offer hospitality courses, it would be much better instead of just mainstreaming in engineering. Also have bursaries offered, because there's a lot of smart and intelligent young individuals right here in the Newcastle area.
Gauteng residents Zakhele Chirwa and Zinzi Twala say Gauteng's water crisis must be addressed.
Things like that, I would like to see a change, and roads, we have a problem with that as well.
They also believe load shedding, unemployment and crime need urgent attention.
The most important thing, I think, is load shedding and unemployment. If you can deal with those two, they'll be able to solve the rest. For example, if you deal with unemployment, you are guaranteed crime will go down because it's related.
Western Cape voters Themba Kwapman and Sipose Tunduna want ongoing gang violence, crime and unemployment to be addressed.
I have faith in them that whatever political parties that is going to will work on load shedding, and also high crime rate. Guys, in Krafonde they are saying there is 3,000 and something that has been arrested, but then we do not see that.
Gang violence is an everyday thing. I don't know how to say we can stop that.
Well, it remains to be seen whether the ANC will retain its majority. Some believe the ruling party will continue to enjoy the fruits of its loyal support base, but it may be diminished in the years to come. How will South Africa's political landscape change in years to come? Only the South African voter will decide.
Elections 24, The Power of Your Ex, is an original Jackpot podcast brought to you by Jacaranda FM News. Jacaranda FM cannot be held responsible for the views and comments expressed in this podcast. Follow Jacaranda FM News on Facebook and X, or go to jacarandafm.com and click on News. Listen to more episodes and the original series at jacarandafm.com, click on Jackpot, or on the apps where you can get all your other podcasts.